Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 2000's Represent. We're in this cycle of 2009, talking about a movie. In this episode, we're talking about Inglourious Basterds. Just an incredible film. Saw this back when it came out. Was very excited when I saw trailers for it. I remember talking to a coworker. I don't remember how soon they dropped the trailers before the movie came out. Maybe in like the spring or so, maybe early summer. I remember telling my coworker friend that they were doing a Quentin Tarantino World War II movie, and that immediately piqued his interest. I didn't see the movie with him, but yeah, ended up going like opening weekend, may have even been opening night at the local theater, and absolutely had an incredible time with it. One of my favorite films from him, I think it's easily in my top three. Don't know the order necessarily, but my top three currently are Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This one out of those three, I think, has the best story because it actually feels like a complete story. They're all complete stories, but this one has kind of just like a great opening act, a great middle act, and a great third act. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I also love. That one more is just kind of like a vibe movie between Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth and kind of the stuff that happens to them throughout however long the movie is set over. I don't know the exact like running length. This one takes place over like several years because there's different chapters. So Tarantino does his kind of chapter setups like he does in a lot of his other films. But yeah, this one's just an incredible film. I absolutely love it. I think I actually ended up picking it up on DVD twice. So I was checking the $5 bin at Walmart, and I actually have this. This one is still sealed. So this is the DVD copy because I bought that with the intention of using it for this episode. And then I remembered, or I found my original DVD of it, and when I watched it recently for this video, most recently, I don't know if it's still on there now, but I watched it again on Netflix. So probably Netflix probably having the better quality. This is just a DVD quality, so it's not incredible. Don't have the movie on Blu-ray. I should probably pick that up at some point. But yeah, this is just a fantastic film. I have my notes here. We're going to get through those notes and then get to our plot and all that as well. So let me just pop that open here. And I would have seen this multiple times, or at least twice in theaters, if the so I saw it at the main local theater, and then the independent theater that was kind of in town as well. Or the main theater was on the opposite side of the county. The independent theater was like just was local, was like right same town basically. Um, they were supposed to get the movie, so I saw the movie initially at the main kind of. I think it was like six screens is what they had at the time at that theater, and then there was a local independent single screen cinema as well, and they were supposed to get the movie, but for some reason the film distributor, wasn't able to get them a copy in time because this movie came out, I think in August, and then kind of up here when after Labor Day, it kind of goes into what's called mud season, which is not particularly busy in town. A lot of businesses close. So that was, I want to say, yeah, like the local theater was supposed to get it, but they would have gotten it, but it would have been already in mud season and the theater was going to be closing anyway for a few months between the end of summer basically or Labor Day up until whenever the ski area decided to open. So sometimes in like November, maybe December. So they wouldn't have gotten it in time to really show it because they were going to be closed. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see it twice in theaters. I've only actually ever seen it one time in theaters, but I've seen it on DVD I think once or twice, and then most recently rewatched it on Netflix. So anyway, let's get to our notes here. So it was first released August 20th, 2009. This is, I think, the sixth film from Tarantino. So we did, let's see here if we can remember the order. There is Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. I think he counts those as one single film for the sake of this. So yeah, let's see. Again, we start Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, Volume 1, Volume 2. Then there's Death Proof after that in 2007. And then Inglourious Basterds is number 6, followed by Django, Hateful Eight, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I find it to be one of his best films. The title is taken from I think like a 1978 film, and as an homage to that, they purposely misspelled the title of the film. That's kind of like an interesting thing here. Apparently, he started writing the film in 1998 and wasn't able to really come up with a satisfying ending at the time. So he kind of put Inglourious Basterds on the back burner to work on Kill Bill instead. And an interesting thing with that was the character of Shoshana, one of the main characters in the film, introduced very early in the film and reemerges kind of toward the middle of the film and then the final act of the film, was written before Tarantino had written the character of the bride. So a lot of the bride's kind of mannerisms and kind of like her background were actually initially developed for the character of Shoshana, but then got reworked into the character of the bride. So, for example, the bride in Kill Bill carries around a list of the enemies that she's like eliminating. That was originally going to be a thing that Shoshana had, which was a list of like high-ranking like German military officers that she was like crossing out. So after they reworked that stuff for the bride, they redeveloped the character of Shoshana until what we got in the actual film. This is a movie of many firsts for me. So I think this is the first movie I saw with Christoph Waltz in it. I think it was the first movie I saw with Michael Fassbender, who I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. Probably the first movie I saw with Daniel Bruhl in it. He went on to, I think the next film I saw with him was Rush, the Ron Howard, Christopher, what was his name? Chris Hemsworth, Daniel Bruhl race car movie. And then he showed up in Captain America: Civil War as Baron Zemo, as well as the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show. I think I had seen maybe Diane Kruger in like one thing before this. I think she was in Troy, so I probably saw that. And of course I had seen Brad Pitt in a bunch of stuff prior to this as well. The movie does take historical liberties, and one funny story a coworker was telling me, because I saw the film, and then I think a coworker of mine went to it. This is when I worked at a restaurant, and she was telling me that as she was leaving the theater, there were people in the group of leaving the theater thinking that this was historically accurate, which is kind of ignorant, of course, because that's definitely not how World War II ended. Even though I think this is a much more interesting and satisfying ending to it, because it's just basically blow up a bunch of Nazis in a theater. That was a great ending, but kind of silly that some people actually thought that was potentially real. But it takes a lot of historical liberties, but it tells a very good story. Just an incredibly good story where there are characters that intersect at their various points. You can't talk about the movie without talking about the character of played by Christoph Waltz. So you have, let me see what the name of the character was. I just had it up here. Let me see. It's Hans Landa. So Hans Landa is potentially, I think, has the most screen time in the movie, maybe, because he shows up at the beginning, he shows up in the middle. He's kind of the character that kind of connects a lot of the dots that Tarantino leaves out, because he shows up at the beginning in the film. I think it's set in 1940, and then the movie takes place over the next few years. But the interrogation scene is great. The scene where he is interrogating Shoshana at the cafe, because they want to move the film premiere to her theater. There's that. There's one part where he's investigating the shootout at the tavern that's in a basement. Then all the stuff leading up to the final act where he is at the film premiere, and then the very end of the movie. And of course, Christoph Waltz picked up an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for that, and then won another one from the Tarantino film for a couple years later for Django Unchained. I definitely think I prefer his performance in this one. He's terrifying, and at the same time, he's kind of funny in some of the scenes. Like the classic line of "That's a bingo" is in this, and he's like, "That's what you say, right?" Is you say that's a bingo, and Brad Pitt's like, "No, you just say bingo." And he's like, "Bingo" or whatever. So he's got a lot of just great dialogue, and it's really interesting. Like I don't think you actually see him kill anybody on screen until he deals with Diane Kruger's character in the third act of the film, and it's one of the most brutal like deaths in the film because he just kind of like chokes her out. But yeah, he's like terrifying, but at the same time funny. Like at the same time, it's like just a perfect role for Christoph Waltz. And like I said earlier, this is probably the first movie I saw him in before seeing him in Django. He showed up in like some couple of the Daniel Craig James Bond films. Those are kind of hit or miss. But yeah, just an incredible actor in this film. Like the whole cast is actually just amazing. Let me see here what we have. First thing I got Historical Liberties. Apparently, Adam Sandler was offered the role of Donnie Donowitz before Eli Roth took it, and Sandler had to turn it down due to like scheduling conflicts. And the interesting thing is, Donnie Donowitz is the father of Lee Donowitz, who is another character in True Romance. So a movie written by Tarantino, but directed by Tony Scott. Let's see here. All right. Apparently, also Tarantino wanted to cast in the role of Hans Landa. He initially wanted to cast Leonardo DiCaprio, but then ended up going with a native German speaker instead with Christoph Waltz. DiCaprio would get his villain moment in the next film, which was Django Unchained. Great in that. And it's really interesting with Christoph Waltz. He acts in like four different languages in the film. So he's speaking, beginning of the film, he's speaking French, and then he switches to English, and he speaks German throughout the movie, and then finally he speaks Italian as well. And he's kind of like one step ahead of it, and he's foiling a lot of the stuff that the Bastards are working on. So just a great kind of counteract to the Bastards and the kind of story that they're trying to tell and mission that they're trying to do. Let's see here. I believe this was Sally Menke's last film that she edited for Tarantino. I think she did one more film after this, but she had edited I think every film from Reservoir Dogs to this before unfortunately passing away in like 2010, I think. And then the editing in films after this, so Django, Hateful Eight, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Even though like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood might be my favorite Tarantino movie, the editing has definitely kind of taken a step back. Like a lot of the movies are potentially longer than maybe they would be with a better editor. But this one is still kind of long. It's still like close to 2.5 hours, I think. But now Tarantino's movies are usually like closer to 3. They're like 2 hours and 45 minutes. The soundtrack we put the what has got the soundtrack? We got one more thing after that. The soundtrack is incredible. I actually have the album right over here, and I have it on vinyl. So picked up the vinyl. I want to say in like 2018, but yeah, it's just got a lot of great tracks on this. Let me see here. Like we got, and Tarantino really dips into the whole spaghetti western soundtrack style for this film. There's also some movie like a lot of these are like anachronistic, where basically it's songs. The movie is set in the 1940s, but there's like a David Bowie song on here from I think like the 1980s. A lot of the spaghetti western stuff is from the 1980s. But anyway, the soundtrack is absolutely incredible. Tarantino, like I don't think he's ever like turned in a bad soundtrack, but this is one of my favorites. And apparently, this is the first soundtrack that they did for a Tarantino film that did not include dialogue from the film in the soundtrack. So the first soundtrack I picked up from him back in like 1995 was Pulp Fiction, and there's dialogue excerpts from that. So this is the first one that didn't do that, even though I think there are some excerpts you could use probably from Brad Pitt's character. I think maybe the reason that they didn't go with dialogue on the soundtrack was a lot of the dialogue is in foreign languages because this is a somewhat heavily subtitled film. So you have obviously scenes where people are speaking German and it's subtitled. Scenes where people are speaking French or Italian. So maybe some of that just wouldn't work very well. But I think you could have easily put the Buongiorno dialogue in there. Um, but yeah, it's a great soundtrack. There's stuff from Ennio. Let me just go through the track list on this. So we have The Green Leaves of Summer is on this by Nick Perito. The Verdict by Ennio Morricone, which I think that's the one where Donnie Donowitz walks out on the bridge with the baseball bat. I think that's that one. There's White Lightning by Charles Bernstein. Slaughter by Billy Preston, which I think is the excerpt used. It's like the guitar riff when they introduce Hugo Stiglitz, and Samuel L. Jackson does the kind of the recap on Hugo Stiglitz's backstory. And actually, yeah, The Surrender by Ennio Morricone. I think that's the one where Donnie Donowitz gets introduced. And then the next one of my favorite songs on the album is One Silver Dollar by the Film Studio Orchestra. And it comes at a kind of point in the movie where it's kind of calm because it's basically Shoshana just relaxing in a cafe, reading a book, having a cigarette. And then that is like a brief moment of, I don't want to say peace, but it's like there's people aren't getting interrogated, at least at that moment. People aren't getting like attacked or shot at or anything like that. And then Daniel Bruhl's character shows back up and then advances the story. I mean, that's like a nice little. That song is like a great song, and it's a nice little respite in the story for I think the audience to catch their breath after like what's gone on in the scenes before that. After that, you have this. I'm probably going to mispronounce this because it's in German. You have Davon Get Die Welt Nicht Uter by Zara Linder, I think. Then you have The Man of the Big Sombrero by Samantha Shelton and Michael Andrew. Ichwalt Eidheimer by Lillian Harvey and Willie Fritsch. Completely butchering these names, unfortunately. The main theme from Dark in the Sun by Jacques Lusser. Cat People Putting Out Fire by David Bowie. One of the best songs in the film because it's like the whole like thing about the scene where it's used is when Shoshana is getting ready to do her whole thing where they're basically planning on burning the theater down. So literally putting out fire with gasoline by like basically using this was it like nitrate film to ignite this theater. Just a great song choice for that scene. After that, you have Tiger Tank by Lalo Schifrin. And then you have Una Miko by Ennio Morricone. And then finally, Rabbia e Tarantula by Ennio Morricone as well. So, yeah, just a fantastic soundtrack. I think I picked up the CD back in like 2009. But according to my Amazon orders, that was just the vinyl I picked up in 2018. Just an incredible score. Back in our notes here really quick. I think I got one or two more things to get through before we get to our plot. So I think I mentioned this on this channel, maybe on the series before. One of my favorite subgenres of movies is movies about making movies, and this one kind of is on the fringe of that as well, because one of the core plot points of this film is there is a war propaganda film that they're showing at a theater in Paris in this film. And Joseph Goebbels is in the film. And he's talking about like making the film and all that. So it kind of tangentially connects into that subgenre that I love about movies about making movies. That's why I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood so much, because it covers that genre. Get Shorty is a great example of that as well. So movies about making movies, so it kind of fits into that vibe. And one of my favorite things with this movie is in the movie, film is used as as two types of weapons, both a literal weapon because Shoshana has all the old nitrate films stored behind the screen, and her partner projectionist flicks a cigarette at it, setting it all on fire. So film as a literal weapon in that case, and then the film that they are watching is a war propaganda film, like part of the military-industrial complex to like like embolden the German soldiers during the war. So it's used as a figurative weapon in the fact that they're watching a war film to potentially boost morale of their troops. So yeah, I just love that there's that duality between film as a weapon, both figuratively and literally. One of my favorite like little bits from the film. So now we're going to jump into our plot here. So this plot, the movie takes place like I think between 1940 and maybe 1944, maybe 1945. The film starts off on a French dairy farm, and you see a French farmer. And I think the title of the first chapter is "Once Upon a Time in Nazi-Occupied France." I love the "Once Upon a Time" thing. It's like shows up in like later in some of his other films. But yeah, like the Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America, like just great films, and I love that that Tarantino pulls that little bit of like film like love and film lore into what he's working on. But yeah, French farmers, Hans Landa shows up and does his interrogation, and Tarantino has said that the interrogation scene in the beginning of the film is the best thing, or at least his favorite thing that he's ever written. It's a terrifying scene because you know something's gonna go down because like Hans Landa goes in there and is speaking French. He's like, "Hey, may I like switch to like English?" And just like the scene is so intense. And this is like the first scene in the movie, the first major scene because you see is like their car drive up and he's doing an investigation. He's like, "Well, like we have one of these Jewish families that we haven't been able to locate. Do you know anything about this?" And the guy, La Piet, I think is like the character's name. He has a dairy farm, and just like Christoph Waltz is so great in this movie. Like, there's something just like terrifying about him just drinking a glass of milk or ordering or asking for a glass of milk. He gets a glass of milk, drinks it, does his investigation, and like I think like they're both like smoking like pipes. It's kind of funny because like the farmer has like the small pipe, and then Hans Landa pulls out this huge Sherlock Holmes style pipe and starts smoking on that. And then he's like, hey, like I know you're hiding them under your floorboards. Like if you like cooperate, like we can make sure like nothing happens to your family. And the guy like is like crying because he's like giving up this family. Um, and he instructs the soldiers to shoot the ground. They shoot up the floor. Shoshana is the only one to escape, and she's running, and Hans Landa like pulls his gun, and it's an interesting takeaway because like you don't know if how good of a shot Hans Landa is. Like, can he maybe shoot Shoshana from? Shoshana's kind of far away at this point when he actually pulls the gun out, but it's kind of interesting because he's like, I could take her out now, or I could potentially wait to deal with her at a later time, which eventually does happen, but or potentially does happen. But it's just terrifying because he's like au revoir, Shoshana. That's one of them like a very terrifying line in the film, and just the fact that he's like also there's a part where he's like bragging about like his nickname. He's like, what nickname they gave me, and the guy's like, yeah. He's like, oh, you can say the nickname if you want. It's kind of like baiting the farmer onto like saying like what his nickname is. But anyway, Shoshana escapes, and then it goes into our second chapter, which is the introduction of the bastards. And Brad Pitt does this whole speech. He's like, everyone under my command owns me 100 Nazi scalps, and I want my scalps. Just a great introduction from Brad Pitt's character. And then it goes into it actually shows Hitler like going like nine 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 because he's like, and then this is after the bastards have been in France for a while, and they are just basically terrorizing the German soldiers that are there, and they're talking about Donnie, they're talking about like all these people that are getting scalped, and then we have the scene where they've ambushed a German patrol, and they're trying to get information out of the patrol about like they're like, well, there is a group of soldiers somewhere up the road from here. We want to know how many are there. We don't know. We want to know where they are, how many there are, and like what kind of like weapons they have. And the one first soldier refuses, and he's like, you know what? If you just put your finger on this map, tell us where they're at. And the guy's like, no. And then he's like, you hear this baseball bat tapping like in this tunnel. He's like, you hear that? That's Donnie. If you don't like tell us what we want to hear, he's gonna come in and beat you up with that baseball bat. And Donnie, one of the most iconic scenes in the movie is him just walking out of that tunnel with the baseball bat, knocks the guy out with it, kills the guy with the bat, and then the next soldier comes up. One of them runs off and gets blasted, gets shot, and the next one he's like, "Where the map is?" And the guy points like instantly. He's like, "How many are there?" He's like, "Oh, like 12." And then he's like, "What kind of weapons do they have?" They're like, "They got grenades, they got this." And this soldier is done at this point, and then he's like, "Well, like." And then one of the most like iconic things in the movie is, and it's a great callback. They call back to it perfectly at the end of the film. Is they have one of the bastards is a translator, And he's like, well, he's going to burn his uniform as soon as he gets home. And Brad Pitt's character, Aldo Rain, is like, we don't like that because you know what? You can take that uniform off and nobody would ever know that you were a Nazi. So we're going to give you something that you can't take off. And they like carve the swastika into his head. Very intense. And that shoulder shows up later, or like in the scene, he like shows it to Hitler. Actually, it's got it like carved into his head. Very intense scene. Next chapter, we meet up again with Shoshana some years later. She runs a cinema in Paris, and she's out taking the letters off of the marquee. A soldier approaches her and starts like a conversation. And this is Daniel Bruhl's character. I think it's I forget get the name of it. Daniel Bruhl's character is. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Like Kruger. Yeah, Frederick Zoller. So he's basically a soldier that was in a like a sniper tower and killed a bunch of soldiers, and that the propaganda film is based on that particular battle. He was talking to Shoshana, and she's like, you want to see my papers? Here's my papers. And then she goes back inside the theater. He's like, are you done with the marquee? She's like, no, I'll get it tomorrow. It's fine. And then it cuts to her the next day at this cafe having like a cigarette, reading a book. Daniel Bruhl's character shows back up, and a lot of people want to take photos with him. And then he's telling her kind of, he's like, well, like I'm the subject of, I think it's like Nation's Pride is a movie that Goebbels is making. But he tells him all about the movie, or tells her all about the movie. And then he's kind of like he's definitely got a crush on her. So he wants to move the film premiere of his war film to her theater instead. And they go to like a lunch where they meet Goebbels, the director of the film. And he's like, Daniel Bruhl is trying to convince him to move the premiere there. And he's like, well, it's a smaller theater, so it might seem more exclusive. It'll be better. And then, in one of the most terrifying scenes in the film, Hans Landa shows back up. Everybody leaves except for Shoshana and Hans Landa. And he orders, for himself, he orders a cup of coffee. And for her, he orders a glass of milk. It's never, I don't think it's ever explicitly said in the film that if he remembers who she is. I kind of tend to think that he does, because he's like, oh, a glass of milk. And then he's like, just toying with her during this entire scene. And they're talking about like the security of the theater, the projectionist, and stuff like that. And then Hans Landa leaves, and she just it's like this. The way the actress does this, it's a like a sigh of relief that he's gone, but also a like, oh my god, this guy that like killed my entire family is now back. So it's a really kind of complicated emotionally. It's a great scene. After that, we move into the whole. I think it's like Project or Operation Keto, which is essentially blowing up the theater where this premiere is. And this is where Michael Fassbender's character gets introduced. Mike Myers is in this. So they're talking about the whole dropping him into France, disguising him as a German officer, and meeting Diane Kruger's character. There's so many characters in this movie. Let me just see what the name of the character was. Diane Kruger is Bridget von Hammersmark, who is a German film star who is actually working with the Allies to work on Operation Keto. So Fassbender gets sent on his job, and this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. One of my favorite dialogue in the movie is he's in disguise, and the Bastards are in a building that kind of overlooks where the tavern is that this meeting's happening at. And Aldo Rain, Brad Pitt's character, is like, you never said the rendezvous was going to be in a basement. And he's like, you said it was a tavern. He's like, and Michael Fassbender's like, yeah, it is. And then Brad Pitt's like, yeah, in a basement. He's like, he's like, and it's just a great bit of dialogue. He's like, there's a lot of tactical disadvantages for fighting in a basement. The number one being that you're fighting in a basement. Some of my favorite dialogue that Tarantino's ever written. So they're like, so it's like they go into the meeting, and there's a bunch of, and there is not supposed to be any Germans in this bar. However, like monkey wrenches get thrown into plans like crazy in this movie. So they go in there, and there's a whole contingent of German soldiers in the bar. And it happens to be that one of the German soldiers just had a kid, and the commanding officer gave that group, that squad, the night off. So we're celebrating at a bar that this one soldier has a kid. Maximilian is the kid's name. So they're all hanging out. It's I think it's like Stiglitz. I forget the translator's name. um, Fassbender and Diane Kruger's character are hanging out. They're playing a game where you have like the card on your head and you're trying to guess what's written on it. That's earlier, and then they all go to their table, and one of the soldiers recognizes Diane Kruger's character. He's like, "Hey, can you sign a thing for my son?" And she signs it like love, like 2 Max Million, like Bridget von Hammerstreck or whatever her name was. And that's important because that shows up again later in the film. So he signs that, and then they're all just drinking. And Fassbender, I think, like you can basically like pinpoint this whole situation falling apart due to Archie Hickok's the way he approaches the situation. So he's got a weird accent that the other Germans pick up on. That it's like they're like, well, I'm from a very small village, and this is kind of like all my brothers and sisters sound like this. I was in this one film from this past film. You may remember seeing it. I'm the kid who's standing on the ski hill or whatever. So that kind of explains the accent a little bit. But then also he just gets really kind of aggressive towards some of the other soldiers. He's like, "Get out of here! This is an officer's table. Go back to your table. You're disrupting myself." And like, I haven't seen these people are friends of mine. I haven't seen in a while. So he's already like arousing suspicion, and people are getting more and more suspicious. Until I think the guy's name was like Hellstorm. I think is the one that actually like figures out that he's actually a spy. But Hellstorm approaches him. He's like, "Well, you said this is an officer's table." He's like, "I'm an officer, so let's like hang out." So like now this other soldier is there, and just very intense. This whole scene in this tavern is like some of the best stuff I think Tarantino has like directed or written. It's just like the tension is just insane. So they play the game where you write something on your card, and like his is King Kong, and they do go through the deductive reasoning process. On he's like, well, He's like, am I from America? They're like, no. Did I go to America? It's like, yes. Did I go in chains? It's like, yes. Am I like Am I like I can't really say it on here, but like he's like eventually figures it out. They start drinking more, and finally the thing that like finally triggers the German officer Hellstorm to realize that Fassbender is lying is the finger gesture. I didn't pick up on it the first time I saw it. I remember asking like a friend of mine about it, like that. I'm like, how did that throw them off? Because what happens is there's already the weird accent from Fassbender. They try to explain that, and they kind of do for a second. There is the fact that he's kind of overly aggressive to um, the other soldiers that are there. And then another thing that finally gives it away is the incorrect hand gesture when ordering 3 glasses for the scotch you're going to drink. So he's like, does that. And it focuses on the back of Fassbender's hand for like a good few seconds to like register what's going on. And apparently it should be this, or depending on what way you're doing it. So Fassbender does that, and German, this is 3 in German. So at one point, the German officer is like, "You're no more German than scotch in that glass," and they basically now have pistols pointed at each other under the table. At each other, he's like, "I'm pointing at your balls. You're pointing at my balls." And then Stiglitz is there. He's got a gun pointed at the officer as well. And then Fassbender jigs up. He breaks character. He's like, it's a great line. He's like, "There's apparently a spot reserved for people in hell who waste good scotch. So seeing as I think he's like, so as soon as I see, I'll be knocking on that door momentarily. Let me just finish this drink." He's like, good stuff. And they're like, how do we suggest we handle this? And then they all shoot each other. Everybody at the tavern shoots each other. After this huge shootout, the only 2 people left are the soldier that Van Hammer. I can't keep pronouncing the name of it. It's like let me see if I can find it again. Hammersmack. Bridget von Hammersmack, the officer of a soldier that she signed the napkin for, and herself. And von Hammersmack has been shot in the leg at this point. So she's trying to argue or to like plead with that guy. Aldo Rain is upstairs, and he's like, "We're in a Mexican standoff now." And the guy's like, he's like, "This isn't a Mexican standoff. You have to have guns pointed on me to be a Mexican standoff, because right now it's von Hammersmack and Hammer pointing guns at each other." And he's like, "Yeah, if I come down there and I get shot, yeah, that's bad. But my friends are gonna drop grenades in there and clear out the entire room. So it's a Mexican standoff." It's great. It's kind of comedic because Brad Pitt is off screen the entire for most of that conversation. Von Hammersmack eventually shoots this guy, and they get out of the tavern. and then they have to do the plan, because the plan was, this was the movie. She's like telling, before like everything goes down, that the premiere of the film has been moved to a different venue, and that Hitler will actually be at the premiere. So she tells that to Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is actually kind of torturing her because she's got a bullet in her leg and he's like pressing in on it. Um, so she eventually tells him that, like, yeah, Hitler's going to be at this premiere. Um, so now the Operation Kino is changed, where they need to now go and do the mission. So basically, they're going to go disguised as Italian bodyguards, or members of the Italian cinema, for that are friends of von Hammersmacks. While this is going on, so Operation Kino is basically just blow up the theater while the premiere is happening. So Shauna is also probably in, without knowing what's going on with the Bastards, is planning on doing her own thing by taking all the nitrate film that they have, which is incredibly flammable. There's even a cutaway about like explaining the flammable nature of the nitrate films. So their whole thing is they're filming their own little video or movie to this big. It's called like Revenge of the Huge Face or something like that. So they film a video with sound of her saying, she's like, yeah, like you're going to die at my hands, basically, is what she says. And they get somebody to develop the film. They're like, well, if you don't develop this film, like, she's like threatening this like film developer. If they don't develop the film for them, they're gonna like get rid of this guy's family and stuff like that. So they make their film. They take all the nitrate film and store it behind the screen. And the plan is to basically splice her film into the war propaganda film, and then set the theater on fire. So the Bastards show up. At this point, I think it's Donowitz, Aldo Rain, and I forget the other one's name. But again, and also prior to that, sorry, Hans Landa investigates the tavern and finds a shoe, and he also finds the signed napkin. He also recognizes Hugo Stiglitz as well. And the funny thing is, like, some people consider this to be a plot hole. I don't know if it is. But it's interesting that the German officer in that tavern does not recognize Hugo Stiglitz. But then also some people explain it in a way where Hitler wants the Bastards to not be mentioned. He doesn't want like his soldiers getting all demoralized over what the Bastards are doing. So he kind of tries to suppress information about the Bastards. So it's possible that this officer maybe has heard the name of Hugo Stiglitz, but doesn't know what he looks like. Anyhow, Hans Landa gets there and finds the napkin in the shoe. He also sees that Stiglitz is there. He's like, Hugo, like, whatever. And then he leaves. They go to the premiere, and another monkey wrench gets thrown in, where they're like, okay, like, we can go disguised as members of the Italian cinema, because there's not going to be a lot of people that at this premiere that speak Italian. We should be okay. But Van Hammersmack goes in there. She's got a cast on her leg now. She comes up with a story that like it got her, like she broke her leg in like a rock climbing or mountain climbing like accident. So Hans Landa shows up at the premiere, and now they're like, oh, these are my friends from the Italian cinema, and they're just like, buongiorno, and then Hans Landa just starts going in speaking very pretty much fluent Italian, kind of again throwing in a whole monkey wrench about nobody really speaking Italian at this premiere. Von Hammersmack tells him about the climbing accident. He's like, well, that cast looks really fresh, and where are you climbing mountains in Paris? This is like, so obviously he knows what's going on, and he knows what's going on already, because he's already found the napkin, he's already found the shoe. So he brings her into a private office, and he's like, does this thing where he points at his leg, he taps it like that, he's like, put your foot here. She does. He unhooks her shoe, and then he's like, reach into the pocket of my coat and pull out what you find. And Diane Kruger's facial expressions in the scene are just like, she doesn't say anything, but you just know it's like this look of terror, like, I'm done for, because basically, like, my shoe is in his pocket. So, and he's already got the napkin, so he knows that she was there. And then this is where he, like, I think you only see him kill one person on screen, and this is it. It's brutal. He just, like, strangles her, and that's basically it. And then he gets on the phone, he's like, hey, like, get rid of the guy with the white smoking jacket, which is Aldo Rain. So they capture Aldo, but they leave Donowitz and the other guy in the theater, and they find dynamite on Brad Pitt. Like, everybody's got, they all have dynamite wrapped around their ankles. So they take Brad Pitt's character, and they throw him and one of the other bastards in a van, or like a military truck, with bags over their head. And one of a scene where like it's kind of funny is he's like, "Oh, made you flinch," and like taps his head and what have you. And then he goes into the whole scene. This is where the "that's a bingo" scene comes up. He's like, "I could let this mission succeed. I could let this mission fail. I could make a phone call right now, and your entire plan at the theater is going to be over if I pick this phone up. If I don't pick this phone up, we can end the war tonight if I let your plan go on." And then he calls the military. He's like, "I want to be like, I want like a bunch of money. I want my full pension for like my current rank. I want like a spot. I forget where he wants, like a house. But he's like, I want to know that I was a double agent the entire time. Obviously not, but he's basically taking credit, or a huge amount of credit, for this plan. The American military people agree to it. This person on the radio, kind of an Easter egg. If you know Tarantino, he uses Harvey Keitel and some stuff. So it's Harvey Keitel is the officer telling Aldo Rain what the plan is. It's like, you're gonna drive to our enemy lines, or you're gonna drive out of enemy lines into our territory, and then he'll surrender himself to you, and then you will bring him to me for debriefing. So basically now it's like, we're going to do this thing. And then now, during this, the entire theater's burning down. But before that, they're showing the war film. Hitler and Goebbels are just like laughing at this, like basically this propaganda film of Daniel Bruhl's character in a sniper tower taking out a bunch of soldiers. But you can see Daniel Bruhl's kind of struggling with. He's like, I did what I had to do, but I don't necessarily like it. He leaves the theater, and he goes up to the projection booth, and Shoshana's getting ready to do her whole thing. He goes in there and is trying to basically get with her. She's like, "Go lock the door." He turns to go shut the door, and she shoots him several times. Her biggest mistake, though, was walking back over to him, is that he blasts her as well. While this is going on, the projector has switched over, and it's now her film spliced in with that. The theater is on fire. The bastards that are still in the theater are blasting down from the balcony into the main theater. They open the door, they blast Hitler several times, get rid of him, get rid of Goebbels, and then their dynamite goes off. These bastards are gone, but the theater is gone. Basically, all the German high command is gone. They drive the truck with Londa in it, and they get out. He surrenders to them, and he's like, "All right, well." Then he shoots the radio operator. Aldo Rain does. And he's like, "Oh, you'll be like court-martialed for this. You'll get like killed for this." And he's like, and Brad Pitt's like, "No, I'll get chewed out. I can handle getting chewed out." And then, as a callback to the earlier in the film, they say, "I bet when you get to this new wherever Londa's going, you're gonna take that uniform off, right?" And you can just see, and you can see in Hans Landa's face that he knows what's coming, and they carved the swastika into his face as well. And it shows a close up of Brad Pitt and the other member of the Bastards, and then it goes to credits. Just an incredible film. Absolutely love this one. One of my favorites from Tarantino. Like I said, easily in my top 3. But yeah, just a great movie. Like 2009 actually had a lot of good films. It was interesting. I remember listening to or watching a YouTube video, and it was somebody comparing the 10 years prior in 1999. Just an incredible year for film. 2009, same way. Don't know if 2009 what 2019 looked like, but in 2009 we got Inglourious Basterds. 2019 we got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So basically, maybe like years that end in 9 are good for film. I don't really know, but yeah, this came out in 2009. I think like District 8 was that same year, or District 9. I mean, was it District 9? I think District 9. Yeah, a lot of good films in 2009. So like I said, we will be continuing this series after we're doing one more episode with a 2009 video game. And then I'm probably going to take a short break because this is going to come out toward the, or this should be coming out toward the middle of December. Probably I'll get stuff finalized for the next kind of cycle because I really enjoyed this. So we're going to do another cycle at least. And I think we'll probably be starting that up like shortly after. We'll probably take like a quick break after the next episode comes out in a week. But yeah, we'll be back in a week with a whole new episode. Short break after that, and then we will start over again with 2000. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.